What is up, you guys? Today it became apparent that Andre Drummond is once again hearing his name in NBA trade rumors, and I have a feeling he'll be moved here in the not too distant future. The Cleveland Cavaliers are not as bad of a team as I had initially thought heading into the season, but they are still 8 games under 500 and currently sitting at the 18th spot in the Eastern Conference. That was the glass half empty view on their situation. The glass half full view shows a team only 2.5 games out of the 8th spot, and if the NBA decides to do that stupid play-in tournament idea again, then they would only be 2 games out. You have to be incredibly pessimistic to think this team is done already. Colin Sexton is playing like a borderline all-star, Darius Garland is impactful and efficient, newcomer Jarrett Allen is a huge impact especially on defense, and the team's big money man Kevin Love has barely touched the court this year. The Cavs are not a trash team, but I do think management is being smart by listening to trade offers for Drummond. The Cavs can simply move Allen to the starting 5 and use JaVale McGee as their backup and be perfectly competitive down low. With Drummond's contract expiring at the end of the season, it makes a lot of sense to try to flip him for at least a single young asset and hopefully a draft pick or two. Of course, Drummond's value is not what it used to be, but still at 27 years old, he is healthy and putting up 17 points, 13 rebounds, and a little over a block a night. There are a lot of teams who may be a Drummond away from competing for a higher playoff spot. Today we are going to look at 5 possible Andre Drummond trades that could happen sometime this 2021 NBA season. I will do my best to explain each deal in depth, but draft picks are weird and confusing, so I will let you guys fill those in and make the deals truly perfect. Before we get started, please comment your trade ideas below, like the video, and subscribe if you like consistent NBA content. Let's get going. In no particular order, the first trade I have prepared sees Drummond headed to the Charlotte Hornets in exchange for Malik Monk, the Martin Twins, Cody Zeller, and Vernon Carey. I recognize this is quite the haul for a single non-all-star player, but hear me out. The assets coming from Charlotte are broken into 3 categories. Firstly, Zeller is a $15 million expiring contract. Though he is not completely just a deadweight, he can fill in minutes at the center position in the case of injury. The Martins and Carey are all young-ish players who may or may eventually have roles for a competitive Cav team in the future, depending on how they continue to develop. And Malik Monk at a glance is a 23-year-old failed lottery pick, but has at least thus far in 2021 seemingly figured out his offensive game. I imagine he will be the biggest impact in this deal for Cleveland, at least immediately. But with him being on an expiring deal, he too may just be another deadweight contract. Meanwhile, Charlotte gets a real center who can rebound, catch lobs from LaMelo Ball, and possibly help the Hornets squeeze into a top 4 seed in the East, a spot nobody envisioned them a month ago. The second trade I have sends Drummond to the Chicago Bulls in exchange for Otto Porter Jr. and Lauri Markkanen. This trade only happens if the Bulls decide it is in their best interest to keep Zach LaVine and try to win as much as possible in the short term. Porter Jr.'s time in Chicago has been plagued by injuries, so unfortunately, he's pretty much just an expiring salary dump. Markkanen, on the other hand, is the interesting piece to this puzzle. Despite having his best season yet, the Bulls made it clear that he was not a priority for them last year, and given the team's record and in this scenario they are trying to make win-now moves, Markkanen is expendable. He would immediately start for Cleveland in the place of the injured Love and Larry Nance Jr., and hopefully a new setting helps his development even more so. Chicago gets an upgrade at the 5. Yeah, I said it. Wendell Carter Jr. is a good young player, but Drummond is a more impactful player right now, no matter how you look at it. Plus, it is not like the Bulls would be giving up on Carter Jr. Remember, Drummond is a 1-year rental, unless of course they like what they see and decide to sign him long term. Trade number 3 sees Drummond headed to our nation's capital in exchange for Davis Bertans, Rui Hachimura, and Ish Smith. This is another one of those unlikely but not impossible all-in approaches that the Wizards would have to commit to. They already have Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal. Everyone is waiting for the Beal trade to be announced, but what if they instead double down on this season? They have every right to try to win games and make money. For Cleveland, Ish Smith plays the backup point guard role and is on an expiring deal. Pretty simple. Bertans and Hachimura help shore up the power forward slot, Bertans being a win-now guy on a long-term deal, and Hachimura being a young piece who also has value in the now. Washington, meanwhile, becomes a whole lot more interesting. I already mentioned Westbrook and Beal, two Hall of Fame level talents who are looking to win a ring. I don't think Drummond makes this dream a reality, but it would make the Wizards a playoff team. Trade number 4, Drummond to the Portland Trailblazers in exchange for Jusuf Nurkic, Derrick Jones Jr., and Anthony Simons. I think it is safe to say that Nurkic is injury prone, and though many people would rather have him over Drummond, if you can't actually use him half the time, then what good is he doing you? If he can make a healthy return and play like he used to, then Cleveland pulls off an amazing steal. If not, his salary is not guaranteed next year, so they could just release him. Derrick Jones Jr. jumps high, which is really cool, and his defense is not that bad, so maybe he can turn into a useful player down the road. And Simons is a young, talented three-point shooter who can also create his own look, which every team could use. Portland makes this move to try to get over the hump. Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum are having fantastic seasons yet again, but are now 30 and 29 years old respectively. They cannot waste more years. This would be a big-time win-now move. Then maybe this offseason they could try to persuade Kawhi Leonard to join their roster? Who knows? And lastly, trade idea number 5 has Drummond headed to the San Antonio Spurs in exchange for LaMarcus Aldridge and Lonnie Walker. Aldridge has not been good this year, but he is an expiring deal, and there is always a chance he gets it figured out and helps the Cavs make a run. I doubt it, but it is not impossible. Walker, meanwhile, is the real treasure here. He is a young perimeter player who has shown signs of both being able to shoot the long ball and attack the rim. He can hopefully continue his development with Cleveland for the long term. This may surprise you, but the Spurs currently are the 6th seed in the West. A lot of NBA YouTubers have been trying to get them to blow it up for a while, but failed to recognize how much of a competitor they still are. The presence of Drummond does not get in the way of their younger future stars, and should help them be an even more competitive team this year. And with his expiring deal, the team would have plenty of room this offseason to do whatever they want. So there you have it, 5 possible Andre Drummond trades this 2021 NBA season. Again, please let me know what you guys think down below. Tell me some trade ideas I should have mentioned or why one of my ideas is stupid. I know that there are rumors swirling around the Toronto Raptors and the Boston Celtics, and those trade ideas get really complicated. The trade exception with Gordon Hayward is astronomically complicated, and anything with the Raptors would probably be a 3-team deal, which is fun to think of, but it gets really messy the more you think about it. So if you have ideas, let me know. I would love to hear them. Please like the video if you made it this far, and subscribe if you like basketball content. I will see you all next time.